Hello there and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at the DJI Ronin SC, and specifically I'm going to show you how to set it up with the Sony a6400, because I keep seeing people having issues with this specific setup. So today what we're going to do is take a look at how to set the SC up and balance it correctly with this camera when fitted with the 18 to 105mm lens, which is an extremely popular combination. I'm then going to show you how to make sure you've got your camera connection set up properly, so you've got the relevant control over the camera via the gimbal grip. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do is mount the gimbal plate to the camera, and you're going to need to use the included riser. Now, the way it's set up on the 6400 is fairly straightforward. You simply have the gimbal plate attached to the riser and the riser attached to the camera. And when you do this, to get it in the right position, you need it to stick over the back of the camera by about 4 or 5mm. Now, if you look on the bottom, what we simply have done is mounted the riser to the bottom of the camera as you normally would, and then the gimbal plate is mounted to the riser through a single screw. It won't actually allow you to fit it with 2 screws. It does normally have the ability for 2. However, to get it in the right position on the 6400, you need to attach it to 1. You then mount the gimbal plate and riser flush at the back, but they do need to stick out off the back of the camera about 4 or 5mm, and then that is the ideal position to have it in, ready to balance on your gimbal. Then you've got the option to mount the lens support on the front, on the thread that's sitting there. I haven't actually got it on at the moment, and then that would sit up against the bottom of the lens, and it actually ends up on the zoom ring if you want to do it as well. Now, once you've got that set up, you also want to make sure that you've got your little adjustment screw in the right place as well. Now, when you look at this, it's actually a little bit earlier than the 0 on mine. It's probably about 2 or 3mm in front of the 0, so we haven't even got onto the scale yet, but that is the ideal position to put it in. Once you've got the plate mounted on the camera, the next thing you need to do is set the positions on the gimbal arms. Now, I'm going to give you what my ones are, and this will dial you in pretty much there for using just a single camera setup without any additional accessories on board. Now, for this, you want to set your front plate adjustment to number 2. You want to set your pitch arm to basically 2.8, which is just below 3, and you can't quite see the top of the 3rd digit. You can just see the line just before it. And then on the yaw motor, you want to set that to 1.5, and that will get you the basic gimbal calibration in place for the balance. And to then fit, you simply slide it on, and you want to slide it right back, and it's actually a bit beyond the 0. It's about 2 or 3mm beyond the 0. Tighten it all up, and once you've done that, you'll find that it's all balanced nicely in the correct positions, and you can move the camera about and it won't actually get lost, and it won't start moving by itself. Now, obviously, once you have done this, the next thing you're going to need to do is the motor calibration to make sure that it is in place, and I'll show you that now in a moment. But that is the best way to do the balance, and that way you know you've got it right. Now, if you did want to check the yaw motor balance, the trick to doing this one is generally on the side. So if you pop the gimbal on its side and you can leave go. Now, there is a touch of movement in my setup, but it isn't enough to cause a problem on the gimbal itself when it's in use. I have used it this way without any problems whatsoever, but again, I could tune that down a little bit better if I wanted to as well. But that's the overall positions for the balance when using it with the 6400. Now, if you are going to be using this with Active Track, obviously these positions are not going to work, and you would need to totally rebalance it again, and I will show that actually at the end of this video. Finally, if you're going to use it with the focus system as well, you're going to need to rebalance it, and I might touch on that one in a separate video. I won't bother putting that into this one. However, for the basics and the main overall setup, that is the positions that you want to get it into. Okay, next we're going to talk about connecting your camera to the gimbal to give you control. Now, with Sony, this is a little bit more complicated than it is with other models like the GH5. Now, there are 2 connection options available to you. To give you basic autofocus, start, stop, record, stills, and the ability to zoom through the built-in focus control on electronic lenses like the 18-105, you would simply use the included multi to Sony cable that's included in the box. You would just plug this in and it gives you all of that functionality straight away. However, if you do want the ability to control pull focus electronically via the DJI Focus, you actually have to use the other cable they include, and that is the multi USB-C, and you then have to put on the C to micro C adapter and actually change one of the settings in the camera. That will then allow you to control the camera via the pull focus. However, you will not have autofocus and you will not have the ability to take stills. That will simply give you start, stop recording and pull focus. So depending on what setup you want to do, you have to choose the cable that best suits your needs. And this is really a quirk of Sony more than DJI, and what they're doing is giving you the option to do one or the other. So to do the basic standard functionality, we simply take our standard USB-C on one side to the micro on cable on the other. You plug it into the back of the gimbal. Now, always with the Ronin SC, the 90-degree end goes into the gimbal. You simply plug him into the port on the side, fire the motors, turn the camera on, and the trick is you always need to turn the camera on after the gimbal with this one. And then we've got all of the controls available to use. I can gently push for autofocus and it will autofocus the lens. I can press and release, it will start the recording. Press and release again, and press and hold will trigger the shutter function on the camera. And then I've got control of the zoom via the built-in focus control on the side, and you can adjust the settings for this a little bit inside the Sony app as well. And that's the main standard functionality. However, if you did want to use the pull focus option, you need to move over to the other cable. Now, once you've got this cable connected, the first thing you will notice that it does stick out quite a bit on the side of the camera, and that is something to be aware of. You will also need to change some settings on the menus before it will actually work properly. First of all, you want to make sure your camera is not connected to the SC at this point, otherwise it won't let you do it. Now, the first thing you need to do is turn off control with smartphone. Now, to get to this, you go up into your settings, go across to network, find control with smartphone, which is under the first menu, and you need to turn this off. And that is the first thing that you need to do. Once you've done that and you've turned that off, you then need to go back up, go under the main briefcase main settings menu, go across to the fourth page, and on USB connection, you need to make sure that is set to PC remote. Once that is set to PC remote, you are then able to connect it to the gimbal. So I'm just going to plug the USB in there as I've done it. It'll then come up and show connecting, and then I will actually have the ability to control the pull focus. Now, this will only work once you put the camera in manual focus mode. It will not work in autofocus. So again, I'm going to just flick it over to manual focus, and I'm going to turn the knob on the side of the gimbal, and you can see that I've got the control over the manual focus there. And then if I press the start and stop recording button, it'll actually start recording. But again, you don't have any of the other functionality available while using it with this cable. Now, really, the last thing I want to mention when using this cable that allows you to do the focus is that you will not have any in-body image stabilization. Now, this isn't an issue on the A6400, but it is exactly the same as it is on the A9. So if you were doing this on an A9, you wouldn't actually have the inbuilt image stabilization. But again, it does allow you to have that pull focus control once you are in manual focus, and you can then start and stop the recording nice and easily via the gimbal handle. However, you don't have the little autofocus on the button. You don't have the ability to take stills either. So again, depending on what your use case is, the cable of choice will depend on that as well. Okay, just before I wrap this one up, I just wanted to show you this balanced with the phone holder on top. And I've got a Android phone mounted on top, but the same way as an X series phone, not the Max, but the standard iPhone size. And it is all balanced, it's all in place, and it will stay where I put it for the most part. There are some little tweaks I could do on it, but it does work absolutely fine in the balance as I've got it. Now, there are some things to be aware of when you have it this way as well, is that there isn't a lot of clearance. If you push it up from the bottom, the adjustment knob screw on the bottom will catch the bottom of the roll motor, and the phone would hit it as well, as it would do usually in Active Track. However, there isn't usually that much movement in Active Track to cause those sort of problems, but it is something to be aware of. Now, as for what settings I've got it in, if we look on the side one here, it's about 0.8. It's not quite the number 1, so it's just below 1, about 0.8. On the front, it's about 1.4, and then on the yaw motor at the bottom, it's about 1.7, and that is the positions I've got it in. And whilst it's not 100% balanced, it is good enough for using it with Active Track without any problems at all. And again, when you do switch it between these positions, you need to make sure that you do actually do the full motor calibration afterwards. And that's pretty much it for this video. If you've liked what you've seen, please do subscribe to the channel. There's that button in the bottom right hand corner, and by pressing that, you'll get any updates on any videos that we do in the future. If you'd like to support the channel and order the DJI Ronin SC, there is also a link to that in the description of this video as well. Don't have any links to the Sony cameras, but you can buy that in your normal area. However, if you did want to support the channel, there is a link for the Ronin. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe, and I will do another one again soon. Please do subscribe to the channel and check out all of the other videos we have available. They are also split into playlists to help you easily find the ones that are relevant to you. If you would like to support the channel, please check out the links that are in the description for each video. You will find the links for the products we've been talking about, and it's only by you guys purchasing via these links that allows us to keep making videos and buy products to talk about in the future. Please also check us out and follow us on all of the social media platforms such as Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. We're beginning to build these accounts up, and whilst it is early days, I would appreciate it if you would like, share and follow us on these platforms. Finally, please also check out my website, www.madrc.com. Now, this is somewhere that we've been putting some of our blog posts and things like that over the last couple of years. So if you're interested in having a look, please do go check it out. That is it. Please do click that subscribe button. Thank you very much, and I will do another video again soon.